Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Fitz's Electric Bar. I was inspired to do this segment based on a concert announcement that is coming to Vancouver, among many other places. It's Robert Plant and Alison Krauss, and they're going to be coming to Vancouver in August, and they're doing a fairly extensive tour. And I'm reminded of a show I saw with them, and that was in Toronto upside down. A show I saw with them in Toronto at what's now called the Budweiser Stage. The time was called the Molson Amphitheatre, and it was Ontario Place, down by Lake Ontario. And it was a really good show. It was fun because we got there and decided to get scalp tickets. And one of the things I try to bring to going to a show to get scalp tickets is just to let go and just know that, if I get tickets, that's great. If they're good tickets, that's great. If not, I wasn't planning to go. It's kind of like the surprise of suddenly deciding, I'm going to go to a show, and you get to see some live music. And my friend Richard and I were able to get seats that I seem to recall were within the first 10 rows and very close to the stage. And I really enjoyed the album Raising Sand. I'd been listening to it. This great hybrid, I guess you could say, of music, the idea of British folk music and Appalachian music from, kind of like bluegrass, the roots of bluegrass, I guess, in the US. I don't know enough about that, but I'm not a huge bluegrass fan, although I've come at it sort of around the bend from listening to a little bit of Jerry Garcia, Old and the Way, and things like that. And I enjoy the idea of bluegrass. I just don't know much about it. But this was a great project. So produced by T-Bone Burnett, and includes some really good players and some really interesting song selections. But what I think made this really quite unique was the idea of bringing these two musical forms from very different parts of the world that had some similarities that may not have been obvious at the time, and creating something kind of special, some sort of hybrid of, again, this old British folk, not like folk like John Martin or, more modern folk, but rather real old like minstrels and things like that, with this Appalachian, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing Appalachian folk music of the US. And it just seemed to be a perfect combination. Now, Alison Krauss, fiddle player and singer with the band Union Station. I think she joined them in 1989. So she had a long history of that kind of music. I was not familiar with her music. I came at this project from the Led Zeppelin angle and interested in what Robert Plant has done post Led Zeppelin as well. And when I started to listen to this record, I absolutely loved it. Now, one of the themes about this little mini video, as it were, is the recognition of suddenly realizing something that you really love, a piece of music that you really love, an album that you've really enjoyed over the years, that you didn't realize that some of the participants and the people that were involved in it. And it starts to really dawn on you that, of course, this is going to be a great record, and didn't realize that these components were part of it. So as it relates to Raising Sand, this was T-Bone Burnett production. So famously, he's worked with Elvis Costello and lots of what you might call kind of roots rockers as well, and compiled the Oh Brother Where Art Thou soundtrack, which had a huge impact. I think that may have been where I first heard Alison Krauss and a lot of other artists that came out of that Oh Brother Where Art Thou, including Gillian Welch, that I've come to really love. And maybe my first introduction to them came out of that particular soundtrack to the film. But this particular record, T-Bone Burnett, I think, was responsible for bringing these two together, and they started to feel a real kinship. And what's interesting is the song selections on here. They didn't write songs together. I don't know that there's a single song on here that Alison Krauss and Robert Plant wrote together, but the things that they cover are fascinating. So they do Sister Rosetta Goes Before Us. It's a Sam Phillips song. The Everly Brothers, Gone, 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 Done, Moved On. A couple from Dillard and Clark. So Gene Clark of the Byrds and the work that he did also with, was it Greg Dillard, I think, Dillard and Clark, Polly Come Home, which is just a beautiful ballad and sung gorgeously here. I almost like it as much or more than the original. So Polly Come Home, and the other one is Through the Morning, Through the Night is on here as well. But the other part are some of the artists. So certainly T-Bone Burnett plays on here. Mark Ribot, who's an excellent guitar player, is on here as well. And again, the production of T-Bone Burnett. Oh yeah, there's also the song Nothing by Townes Van Zandt. So impeccable song selections and some great players make this a really, really great listen. Now, many of you out there probably know this, but over and above the performances and the musicianship and the song selections is the warmth of the sound. This record sounds beautiful. It's like a big warm blanket. I find it to be tremendously soulful, and it's like an old friend. It's a beautiful record. I've had this on CD for many years and was able to pick this up more recently in my record store on vinyl, and I'm really loving this record and playing it over and over again. When I saw them in 2008 in Toronto, it was so apparent to me how beautiful, what the chemistry is like between Alison Krauss and Robert Plant. It's really, really strong. They obviously enjoy each other's company. They enjoy the discovery of what they're able to create with each other in exploring a lot of these songs from a wide variety of artists. If I'm not mistaken, there was a cover of a Low song as well. Their second record, Raise the Roof, also had some really interesting song selections on it as well. So a really neat, I think they just have the 2 albums, but a really nice collection of songs. And yeah, in 2008, when I saw them, one of the things that was so enjoyable was the Led Zeppelin songs that were played very much in the style that Alison Krauss and Robert Plant had created with this record and with T-Bone Burnett. They covered Battle of Evermore, and when you listen to that song, that Led Zeppelin song, you realize, my God, there's such a deep folk, again, minstrel folk or old British folk as part of that song. It's in its DNA, and how well it was performed and how different it was hearing this done by Robert Plant and Alison Krauss. But Robert Plant is still part of the performance. And when he was singing it, he was holding the microphone the way he did sometimes when he would get really emotive with Led Zeppelin. You know, he'd have the little sort of microphone and there'd be a position. I'm going to see if I can find a photo and drop it in there. And he performed that, and it was just like, you almost, I think if there wasn't a cheer, I felt an internal cheer watching Robert Plant holding that microphone for a moment, feeling like I'm at a Led Zeppelin show, even though this is very much not Led Zeppelin. Anyways, if you get a chance, I do recommend going to see the show. The tickets are not cheap, but if not, certainly give this record a spin. If it's been years, I would suggest giving it a good listen, because it's a beautiful sounding record. Now, the thematic part of this video is also another record that I got recently that I've had for years on CD and was recently reissued on the Intervention Records label. I love what Intervention Records does. We all probably as vinyl fanatics have labels where we will buy stuff, either reissues or new releases, just because it's on that label. And I find this Intervention Records, they've done Dillard and Clark, they've done Gene Clark, they've done Flying Burrito Brothers, just a whole bunch of great stuff. And they do a really nice job of the packaging. And in this case, I'm talking about Matthew Sweet's Girlfriend. And really nice, it's a beautiful gatefold. Really nice heavy stock. Love it, love it. But of course, it's the music, stupid, and the music is great. And most of you probably know this already. But when I was looking at the credits, this is the thing about CDs, is that sometimes I don't get to the liner notes with the level of detail that I would with vinyl. And I realized the people that play on this record is just fantastic. So Matthew Sweet, on the first song, Divine Intervention, Richard Lloyd of Television plays guitar, electric lead guitar. And others that are on this record, Richard Lloyd appears a few times. Robert Quine, who has played with everybody from Lou Reed to many, many others, and is a fantastic guitar player. He does some electric lead work as well. Even Lloyd Cole plays on a few of these songs, doing rhythm guitar, things like that. And Fred Maher, I don't know how you pronounce his name, Maher, M-A-H-E-R, but he's worked with and produced Lou Reed. He's also a drummer, and he drums on a lot of the tracks here as well. So you know, when you think about, like, this is such a great album. The quality of this reissue from Intervention Records is great. The separation between instruments, the overall sound quality is just excellent. And listening to this and reading the liner notes and going, oh, that is a Robert Quine guitar solo, or that is a Richard Lloyd guitar solo. You know, those guys both have very distinctive guitar. Oh, and Robert Quine's actually played with Lloyd Cole as well in some of his solo works. You know, very distinctive, and you might not even know it until you sort of realize it, and then you listen to it and you go, oh yeah, that Richard Lloyd guitar bit is a little bit, reminds me of some of the stuff he did with Television, and Robert Quine with Lou Reed, among other things. So highly recommend this reissue. Girlfriend, Matthew Sweet, that's Tuesday Weld, the actress on the cover. And apparently this was after he had broken up, I don't know if with his girlfriend or with his wife, but there's a great quote, and I'm not sure if I've got it here, but I guess it was in Wikipedia, something to the effect that he said he was, you know, very depressed during the recording, or you know, shortly after, when he was writing these songs, and there was some mention of, you know, would he be able to put out a record like this again? And he said, I'm sure I'll be going through some kind of bouts of depression or difficulty in my life that I'll be able to make great music like this. I shouldn't make light of that. It just seemed like he was kind of making light of it. But there are a couple albums there now that I wanted to just kind of highlight in particular because of some of the amazing people on the records, or the song selections in the case of Robert Plant and Alison Krauss. Carpe diem.